Hello, this is John, and I'm going to do a quick video here of how to hook your bullet connectors to the ESC. You can buy these bullet connectors. These are a 3.5 millimeter, and you'll get 3 pair, male and female. And in this application, we're just going to use the female, so we can put these male ends away for when we need them for something else. Now we're going to connect these bullet connectors to our ESC. As we can see here, we have our ESC. Most times it should come where the wires are already been stripped, but if not, you can take your strippers and cut a little bit off. And along with your bullet connectors, they'll give you some shrink tube. So I like to put my bullet connectors into the little clip here on the holder in my magnifying and soldering machine here, stand. Now the bullet connectors in the back, they have a hole, and let me see if I can bring this in. Okay. Now they have a cup in here, and there's a little hole on the side, on either side, that you can put the solder in, and you can fill that well with solder. Well, the first thing we're going to want to do though is we want to cut this shrink tube so that we can put it over our bullet connectors when we're done. So we want to cut them equal lengths. Don't use a lot of this, just enough to cover the solder joint is usually more than sufficient. And it will give you a place to grab when you need to disconnect or connect your ESC to your motor. So now we got those 3 equal parts cut. Let's slide them onto these wires so we don't forget. Sometimes you forget, and then you have to go back and unsolder it and redo it. So we get them all on there. Get this other one here and get that on here. Okay. So now we got them on there. Now we can take our soldering gun, make sure it's good and hot, and you can stick that soldering gun right in that little hole. And then you can fill that well up with solder. Now, you can just take this wire, and it doesn't matter which one, and you just remove it from that hole and let it fill up. There you go. And that's one. And that's good, and that's good. Now I'll do all 3 of these first, and then we will put the shrink tube back on there and fill that up. Now, we got that one ready, and we're going to do the same as we did with the first one. Get that, let that heat up a little bit in there. It'll take a little bit to heat up that brass female. Once it does, then that'll pull down in there where it belongs. There it goes. Takes a while for it to get hot. This soldering gun seems to be a little bit ornery today. It doesn't want to heat up the way that it should. Let me readjust this. There it goes. Once it gets hot, then it will pull right on down in there. Now you have to be patient with a soldering iron. They're not going to go too fast. You just want to fill that tube up because you want to get a good solder on your fittings here on your wire. Dip that one down in there and just let it dry. It doesn't take long for that solder to dry. You might hear my soldering gun sizzling a little bit. There was some water got down in there, and I think that's what's causing it to be giving me the problem. Let me adjust this back so you can see what I'm doing here. Now we're going to put the third one in and the final one. Get him put upside down. And then again, just going to do what we did with the other one. Okay. Take a little bit for it to heat that barrel up, and then we'll be ready to go. We'll let them heat it up. If you have a piece of sandpaper, sometimes if that tip gets a little bit of dirt on it, that could make it to where it won't give the heat out like it should. So you can actually take that tip and pick that out. Might need to clean your tip off a little bit with some sandpaper. It don't hurt. Now let's see how that works. Yeah, that makes a big difference, doesn't it? All right. Let's stick him right down in that hole. Take him out and let him dry. Now, the reason why I usually solder these up all first, that way they can cool off. Because if you put this heat shrink on, as soon as you're done, the heat shrink will melt and you won't get it to where you want it. Now, take these heat shrink, we adjust that up, and just run this gun over it, our soldering gun, and get it the way we want it. That heat shrink, as soon as that heat hits it, it starts to shrink it up. Alright, let's do this next one. You gotta be careful, sometimes a little bit of solder will come out of your bullet connector, but that's no worries. We can just melt that right out. Okay. Now, get this other one up here. And he'll come up. I make them pretty much even to the end. Because I like that I can, that way I know it's not going to ground or short out on any other wires if we have a crash or a little bit of wires should touch each other. It won't really hurt it. There we go. There's that one. And now for our last one. Okay, we got our last one here to do. You can use a lighter on these also. I just didn't happen to have a lighter on me right away. But anyway, let me zoom this back out. So that's the way we do our ESC. It's all ready to go. And then that'll just hook in to your motor. And then the same thing we'll have to do on the other side. We can hook whatever connector we're going to use to connect to our battery. Whether it be a Dean's or a Banana, but whichever one you choose to use, then you'll hook that the same way as we did these bullet connectors for the ESC to the motor. And there you go. It's pretty simple. It's not hard to do. Just take your time, be patient, and remember, enjoy the flying. Till next time, this is John. Please like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.